I'm here today with Edgar Perez, artist from San Bernardino. Just going over, just having an update, seeing what you're doing since you've been showcased at the Little Gallery. Remind me, when was the show? Like maybe around a year when you were showcased at the Little Gallery?
The show was in the beginning of 2019.
Right on. How did you? I'm sorry.
Around January.
Okay,
hmm
2019, right?
hmm
Right on. How did you get involved with the little gallery?
Actually, so at that time, this was around November, I believe, November, December of 2018.
Hmm.
I was in the advanced painting class in the studio. So I was working on a piece called Mesa, and then Mesa is pretty much a self-portrait of me bending, slouching over on my back, and then having a succulent balance on my back.
Huh.
So I created a platform, a table, Mesa, for the plant, and it was more about vulnerability and also discomfort, but then also comfort, being comfortable. So Eric, I believe he's one of the curators for the little gallery.
Yes.
He actually contacted me to be part of the show because he was scouting around the art department for students, mainly students. I want to showcase mainly the students of the San Bernardino area, local artists as well. That was our main thing, just allowing people to have a platform within the city and then to have them have exposure. So Eric contacted me, and then I believe Andrew contacted me about wanting to have that piece specifically in the show. And then that's pretty much how I got involved with them. But I've been knowing Eric and then Andrew since my freshman year starting there at CSUSB. So around like 2014 when I started as a freshman.
Cool. That's really cool, man. Congrats. You know that you had that opportunity to be presented to you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not a lot of people have an opportunity like that. So that's really big. And sounding based on what you told me, as in like your description of the art piece, I definitely, just right off the bat, I feel that, bending over a succulent, like that is not comfortable,
No.
and you telling me that it was representing vulnerability, so even more so, like I would like to see the piece. Maybe you could, after the interview, maybe you could, or if you have the piece right now with you, that would be very interesting to see. Or you could send me something in the email, a picture of it, or show me where I could look that up. But that's right on. That's very awesome, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you got you? I forget. Did you graduate from Cal State San Bernardino? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I graduated within 4 years at Cal State San Bernardino, December 2018.
Congrats.
I graduated under cum laude, so university honors, and then I also graduated with honors for the art department.
Awesome, man. Nah, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
I hope, 'cause I'm a current student, so I hope I get those honors, and I'm really trying hard. But congrats, man. Congrats. That's inspirational. That's a lot of hard work, definitely.
Oh yeah, a lot.
All
Like
right.
taking what 17 units, nothing below that every quarter. It was crazy, but got it
Yeah,
done.
but you did it. You got it done. Mad dedication. Definitely tells people the dedication that you have for your work, for your craft, for living that life. Because it is, in my opinion, I feel it's a lifestyle that you do have to live, because you do have to prioritize your life around.
Yeah, it was pretty hard too. Like now referring to prioritizing because when I before starting at Cal State San Bernardino, like senior year of high school, I graduated 2014. Um, I was so involved in the arts, how I stated, like being part of a docent, museum, and director assistant at the American Museum of Ceramic Art, going to Space Gallery, the Museum of Donuts, Fontana Art Depot, and then the Daw Center for the Arts, and like other stuff, like going, well, leading off to getting a higher education and then seeing how your time quickly changes, you do have to prioritize your time a lot more efficiently. It was really hard because I had to like let go of some of the stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of a lesson in which just because you stop doing something doesn't mean that you have to like let it go completely. You could still be in contact with somebody and network with them while you're not fully working with them, or finding other different ways of utilizing your time in order to like, how should I say this, like cover what you lost in a way.
Right.
I don't know.
No,
Something like that.
I get you. It's like you said, it is a lesson that does need to be learned. Definitely, in my personal experience, like I said, still being a student at San Bernardino, something that I did have to prioritize. I mean, I really don't go out just because I'd rather funnel my money into, well, my career, because this is our career. That's why we're going to school.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, man. I'm just like, I love going to the bar. I love playing pool at the bar, putting my name up on the chalkboard and playing some random, and either winning or losing doesn't matter. It's just the socializing and the game. But like you said, and I think that's something to be learned about, that it takes certain, just in general, it takes time to learn depending on the person. Some will pick it up quicker than others. So for the young viewers who are wondering, that's definitely how you do it.
All right, like parties, and like, okay, don't get me wrong, I like doing other stuff as well from my
Exactly.
art, but I feel, me personally, yeah, I would, do stuff outside of my practice just so I could get so I could feel refreshed once I come back into it. But
Yes.
like how you stated, I don't really go out as much because I'm like, oh man, I have this project that I need to do. I have deadlines. I need to get this done. You're constantly like involved fully with your work, your career. It's a second job.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you actually want to do something with yourself, you have to put the work, you have to be committed into it, and you have to like, yeah, you just have to be very committed, because it's hard for us to be committed, and if we it's easier for us to see ourselves in the future where we want to be, but if we don't put in the work, then we can't be there. And that's pretty sad too, in a way, because we tend to dream big but we don't put in the work. But when you do put in the work, you want it to go fast, but everything takes time. So 6 years from now, you'll look back and you'll see, whoa, I didn't feel that I was moving anywhere, but now I feel that everything that I've done, whether it was like free work, volunteering, that sort of stuff, anything, all the experiences that you learn and all the networking that you have done will help you on later on. That's what I've learned, because I was commuting from Pomona every weekend. I also played guitar, so I was like heavily involved in music. I had bands, and then I also did my art and internships. So all my free time, I had no free time. Sunday, that was it. So like utilizing my free time, I was mainly utilizing for my career, and like sacrificing so much time, trying to get rides from Fontana to Pomona every weekend from, I guess, for like 4-6 hours, sometimes 10 hours, depending on the gallery show and the openings. Not getting paid. Like, I didn't mind any of that stuff, like getting paid and like staying up late and the drives. I was getting paid for the experiences and the networkings. And then being so young and surrounded by these older artists, men and women, and learning about how they got to the point where they got, or learning how they did a certain piece. I wasn't getting paid physically with money, but I was getting paid more with experience, which I could take that anywhere. Money, I could just give it to anybody, it's gone.
Yes.
It just gets recycled. But learning from somebody else's experiences, I could then implement that into my practice, and then I could also give that to somebody else, I guess, passing it forward. So
Yes, dude, beautifully said.
yeah.
Couldn't say any better. Hearing you, it did give me the chills, because it
Oh.
gave me the chills because it's a reaffirmation of my thoughts, and to hear it from an artist who's at a higher level than I am, uh, it just gives me more confidence into everything that I'm doing. And just like you said, money does get recycled. Money does come and go. Market crashes, money goes. Market's up, money comes.
Yeah.
But your experience and your knowledge and what you do and what you learn, that stays in you.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn from it. So rightfully said, man. That was awesome. Like you said, that gave me the chills.
It's really hard
and
too,
thank you to hear that.
it's really hard too, and because in the art world, it's very small. The art community is very small. So in order to be in the position that you really want to be in, you have to network. And many of the times you won't come across like very nice people. Some of them are very stuck up.
Yeah.
They know the networks, they have people, but they won't allow you to they won't give you that chance, even though they went through the hard stuff. And this has happened to me too once, in which I was wanting to get into muralism, but the person that went through the same battles, meaning this was during like the 60s when the Chicano movement was like on the rise, in which artists, people of color, were not seen as artists. Mainly the muralists, they were seen more as taggers and like all that stuff, promoting communism and that sort of stuff. They weren't really allowed and given the opportunity to express themselves fully, like whether it was public work or museum work. But having that been repeated, kind of like what happened here, you went through the same thing, but you're repeating it to somebody else. So, and then I was speaking to a muralist yesterday too. He was giving me the opportunity to help him out in LA, in Highland, the LA area, to help him out with murals, because we went to the same topic about how there are artists that have so much resources, but they're not willing to share that with the younger people, that up and coming people. So he was more about, I would rather help the younger artists, up and coming artists, so they won't go through the stuff that I've gone through, or just to give them a little push so they could get started in their own career and like that sort of stuff. So it's about like support. That's the main thing, because if you don't feel support even within your community, you feel like you won't be getting anywhere. That's how I feel. So
I definitely agree with you. There is that thinking, and I think that kind of mentality that younger generations, I feel, may need to curb that, just kind of like how you're saying, and I definitely agree with that. I have experienced some of that in my own endeavors, in my own internships. I've done internships in LA, Culver City, there, areas around, and trying to making connections out there. A lot of what I heard was, oh, I work in network. I work in network. And for a long time, I was like, well, what does that mean?
yeah,
And
what does
then,
that network?
right, like in network. So then I was just like, okay, well, I guess he means, let's put it in layman's terms. I work with my friends. That's how I interpret it as. And I was just like, okay, like that's cool, because when you start networking, it sort of becomes like a professional friendship, and it may even evolve to a close friendship the more years that you work with these professional contacts. But that was the biggest thing that I got off that was in network. So, to those people, I would always say, okay, cool. Well, then just let me know if, say, none of your in network connections work. You have someone on the outside, you know what I mean? So I would say that to them. I'd be like, I'm on the outside, if you need someone last minute, you don't got no one, here I am, So, and I think we're in a position, as long as we continue with our career, to be in those positions where we do have a chance to change it, because I have my own reserves on that idea. But anyways, enough about that. So, yeah, your current projects, anything that you're currently working on, anything that's in the conceptual phase, anything that's a progress in work, or anything that's finished. What have you been up to lately?
So ever since the pandemic, well, before the COVID virus started being taken a lot more serious, I believe this was what we're in April. So January, February. So around February or March, that's when everybody was like thinking, oh, this is something serious we need to pay attention to.
Very true. March 13th was, or March 14th, one of those 2 days was when we do stay-at-home orders, and they were revised on the 19th. So yeah, around that time.
So 2 weeks before that, I was part of a show called Dark Love at the Foyer Gallery in Pomona on 2nd Street.
Right on.
That was one show, the very first show, I believe, in the beginning of this year. So when the pandemic started, people being locked down in their houses, I believe the only thing that was open were like essential businesses, and that was it. But a lot of the stores were closed completely.
Yes.
So when around that time, I believe it was April around like April, I ended up losing my job. So
as a lot of people.
Yeah, I ended up losing my job, but I think it kind of hurt me in a way too, because I was running low on art materials supplies. And then a lot of the stores were closing, and then if you wanted to buy something online, you had to wait like almost 2 months.
I know the local camera shop for me, I'm still looking for film from them, and nope.
Oh wow. So like losing my job and then going through the whole pandemic phase, and listening to all these different sides of politics, and also assumptions of assumptions about the virus, because we were still going through that that phase in which we didn't know how long it lasted on surfaces, how it could spread, and all that stuff. And when I was working, we didn't even know. I was in a high exposure job. I was working at UPS. So I was dealing with customers, boxes come from China, and all that stuff. But losing my job, and then staying indoors, and then just allowed me to pretty much regather myself and reorganize my career. I participated in a workshop that the Garcia Center of the Arts in San Bernardino held. Calsa, one of my professors from Cal State San Bernardino, she held a workshop in which she talked about how to navigate the art community, the art world, and how to improve your career. So I went to that workshop. I learned a lot from it, because I was like, oh, I could also imply these things into my career. I should be setting goals monthly in order to move somewhere and then have a bigger goal. So during this pandemic, and still am, I ended up rethinking about my career, writing stuff down, trying to create goals for that month, and then trying to check them off. So I started painting a little bit more pieces, because I kind of lost my train of thought when it comes to my work a little bit. So I tried.
It was definitely a shocker, for sure.
It was.
For sure.
It was, because I came from having a job, working 6 days a week, not having a lot of time to paint, mainly draw. So when I worked on this one piece, it's called what it's called? Oh my gosh. Heavy breathing. It's called Heavy Breathing. So starting off the piece, it was really nerve-wracking. I got anxiety because I started thinking, I was like, I haven't painted for a while, for months. I haven't drawn for months. I still have the idea on how to start, but starting it was really hard for me. So so this pandemic, pretty much, I started drawing a little bit more. I started painting a lot more. I started finishing up pieces that I haven't finished, or the ones that I have left behind and then got bored a little bit and then moved on to another piece. So my projects were mainly about getting my pieces finished, like completely finished,
Right on.
so I could start new ones. So currently, the project that I have in mind, it's continuous. It's about utilizing objects and the body, and then creating a link, um, a metaphorical link to relive past experiences and current experiences.
Gotcha.
So
Cool. That's
so then
definitely cool.
so that's an ongoing series that I'm working on. Just utilizing, it's mainly all self-portrait.
Okay, right on.
So
That's a free model, that's for sure.
yeah, I'm my own model. So,
Yeah, I find
so
myself doing the same thing.
yeah, like if I use somebody else, I feel that I'm not able to relate to the piece as much as I could, because the way that I work is that everything that I create is very personal. It's very thought out. It's very conceptual. It's pretty much a whole, like, how should I say it? Like, it's like a ritual for me in a way.
Yeah.
It goes from its beginnings, middles, and its ends. Whenever I work on a piece, it always comes very deep within. Whenever I work on a piece, whatever I'm going through, that allowed me to get into that idea of this piece that I'm working on, such as heavy breathing. During the pandemic, I was going through a lot of health stuff. So I went through a lot of discomfort, but I tried to make myself comfortable. So I utilized an object that I used for comfort, which was a pillow. And I bounded my body with rope, because I felt bound to this pillow and the position that I was in just for comfort. But it's talking about masculinity, and then comfort and discomfort and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
You could definitely just based off of your description, right? Because the beauty about that comfort, right? You have the pillow. The beauty about that is you're hugging it, right? And it feels good. And then you could let go when you're done. But now if you're bound to it, you don't get that freedom to be like, okay, I'm good with it now. Now we could continue on. You're bound to it. So in a sense, it's also resembling like a prison, you know? And that's kind of like hard to like heavy breather or hard to breathe. Let's repeat the title of it for me again.
heavy breathing.
Heavy breathing, you know, because you zen out, right? That is supposed to comfort you, but heavy breathing, like that's not what heavy breathing, like that heavy breathing does not make you feel like that. It makes you feel very anxious and you're just like, oh man. So I get that from what you're describing.
What was happening was that after I lost my job a week ago, I ended up feeling like very sick. Ended up going to like urgent care, ER, to finally see 4 doctors. So it was a lot of stuff that I was going through, and hearing the words like possibility of developing cancer in 2 different I don't know, areas or whatever,
right,
kind of freaked me out, because
totally.
the 3 months that we first started being on lockdown, it kind of made me feel like a little bit depressed, a little bit sick, and then because of what I was going through and not knowing what it was causing, especially not being able to go to the doctors physically and making appointments and having to wait so long,
right,
especially since offices were closed during this whole pandemic, and still are. So
right,
it was kind of a lot. And then my anxiety was like, it was just up there.
right.
So the only thing that I had was like my pillow, because I was in so much pain. And then I decided to bound myself with rope, because it's something like how you stated, if I could remember, was that I wasn't able to, like, I was just trapped, because it was that feeling. It was a feeling that just pretty much stayed with me it was a feeling in which I didn't know whether it was pain or hunger that I had. It started messing around with me psychologically, but that going back to the project about using objects as metaphors to represent, or I mean to link current and past experiences, it's just going to be continuous, I believe. And pretty much my entire life I am thinking, or a long period of time, because every piece that I created pretty much stops a point of my life in which I had to go through something, or I'm thinking about something very deeply. And then, so that's one current project. I've been part of publications.
Cool.
So Curious Publishings, they asked me to be part of their queer issue edition as a featured artist with work.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
And interview, and I was like pretty exciting. I've been working with them for a couple months.
Cool.
First time I wasn't like sure about it. Now I know like what they do. I've been part of their publications. One of the biggest ones was at the Riverside Art Museum for the Latinx publication. And then currently I'm working on a series called Meat Rack.
Okay.
So for machismo under Curious Publishing. So it's pretty much exploring masculinity, whether it's through queerness or some other interpretation for it. Right. So, and then I helped with a mural at downtown San Bernardino for the Black Lives Matter movement. And then I'll be working on another mural at the Huerta Garden in San Bernardino by the Helping Hands Pantry.
Sweet. So, that's right on, man. That's beautiful to hear from my end. Like I said, still being a student, trying to finish up my art education, to hear you have the success that you're having, because that is a success. So congrats, man. That's very great that you're having these opportunities and these exposure. I think that's really awesome, man.
Yeah. Like, I'm not getting paid to do the murals. I'm not getting paid to be put in books, but like going back, you're getting paid for the experience. You have to work in a certain manner with these publicists, even galleries. I'm part of the Los Angeles Artists Association. You have to do things correctly. You have to do them in a certain order. Like when you're in school, from my experience, it wasn't like so uptight. There's more there's more room to wiggle when it comes to making mistakes. When you send stuff out to a publicist or a company or to a gallery, they're more strict on those things, because if you do a mistake, just say if you send a PDF, you send a JPEG file to a gallery and they're doing a show and they're going to critique your work before entering it. If that JPEG file isn't to the standards that they want, and if it comes out pixelated or whatever, it comes out messy, they're just gonna like push you to the side, and there's opportunity lost right there. It's like a learning experience too. So by trying to do the work, like just say, not just like, oh, I don't want to do this because of that. Just put yourself in that position, learn from it, and hope to do everything correctly and learn from your mistakes, and then try to not to repeat stuff like that. You tend to get better. And if you do make a mistake, then it's just a mistake. It's not going to cost you. So me being part of these publications and like taking part of these community art projects just allows me to get my feet even wetter.
Yes.
It allows me to think differently about how I should approach my work, especially in these publications. It's mainly photography. And then when it comes to like photography, digital stuff, I'm like, oh no, how do I make this JPEG into this certain thing? You start thinking about it in a more editorial way, because the way that you present your work is the way that people look at you.
Yes.
So if somebody gets a file and it's not correct, it's not labeled correctly, they may not take you as serious, or because there's instructions on how to do things and they've given it to you, it's now of you implicating that into it.
Yes, it's like the mentality is like you said, they're not going to take you seriously because you were given instructions. If you did care about it and you did want the opportunity, you'll read those instructions. You won't just be like, okay, cool, thanks for the instructions, and then pass them by, you know, because you want to make sure, like you said, you know, your work is a reflection of you, you know, so that's very true, like you said, you know.
Yeah, so, and also just putting in the work, it's everything. So and also trying to stay in contact with the person and not just making it seem that you're wanting to utilize them as a resource, but then you're just cutting them off and then going back again when you need them.
Yeah.
The art community is very small, like very small. And the people that go into your shows are the same people that pretty much follow you, whether it's through social media or pretty much the people that you show. A lot of the shows that I've been part of in my, I believe, like 8-year career already have been the same people, the same group. So you guys have to like respect each other and like, you know, because the same group that you're being part of are the same people that can support you in any other way. If a person is an expert, just say in photography, and you want to have these really nice, crisp photographs of your work, and they're your friends, you could like easily ask them and work something out. Or if you want to work in ceramics, glass blowing stuff, and one friend of yours knows how to do it, and you guys are willing to help each other out,
True.
contribute. It's pretty much a small community that needs to help one another in order to pretty much like
kind of continue and grow up. I agree.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you kind of see this mentality with musicians. If you say like, you know, the Police, how then you have the Police and the success of that, and then you have Sting and the success of his individual records. Same with the Beatles. Then you have, you know, Elton John and his all that, and all those ones. So it's like you said, you know, it's like coming together, and then if the world recognizes the talent, then the world recognizes the talent, you know. But it's like a group effort and sharing the whole piece of the pie, you know. I do kind of feel that.
Artists are not taken serious
No.
at all, and it's sad because everything that we have is created by an artist.
Yes, just everything that we do have, exactly.
Clothing, technology, everything is art.
Yep, billboards, even a logo design of a company had to be a graphic design artist, or even late when you start off before digital to drawing, painter, they have to be good at drawing, you know. So yes, it is. I do feel it is underappreciated. I agree with that, because I do feel when people, oh, you know, what are you going to school for? And I do feel a little bit apprehensive to tell them what I'm going to school for. And I look at their expressions. Some of them are supportive. Some of them, you see it right on their expression, as in like, oh, cool. And it's like, well, yes, it is cool. I am. Yes, it's cool.
What are you going to do with that?
Exactly. What am I going to do with that? Let me just go down the list of what I can do with it, you know? So there is a lot. And I do feel it is underappreciated.
Yeah. It's the first thing that gets cut in schools. It's the first thing that people question, how you're going to make a living off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You find a way as an artist, you know. But that's awesome. I like the project that you were talking about, the ongoing project of anxiety and having to combat that, because it was very stressful just for the world in general to be hit by this pandemic. And then even as artists, because it is difficult. There's a little bit of a difficulty in making a career as an artist, but I think through perseverance, through practicing your craft, doing, like you said, taking those opportunities that maybe you're like, oh, it's not going to be a good opportunity, but in actuality, it may be a great opportunity to expose your craft, and to maybe there's something to learn from it.
And then part of, I think every artist, depending, on their personal goals is to at least make it into having
Something.
recognition.
Yes.
So I took it, well, if I'm not, just in case, if don't get to that level and where I want to be recognized for my work and then I want to make a living off of my work, at least I have, and just in case my pieces are like ripped, burnt, 50%, stolen, whatever, files, that sort of stuff, then at least I have record of myself and my work that I've been presenting. And then it'll be part of like private, people's homes, that sort of stuff. So at least that's something that I existed, that this is the work that I've been presenting. If I don't make it into becoming somebody greater.
Right. Well, right on. Is there any other projects that you're currently working on? You did mention that you were that you've used this time to go back to other projects to finish them. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So a lot of the paintings that I have, mainly a painter, they're about pretty much everything that I was going through, but also seeing what was happening around my surroundings.
Okay, cool.
The majority of my pieces are about me, masculinity, also health, and then I have one piece called Gamma. So Gamma is another piece in which I utilize an object that we see laying around in the streets. It's just a wooden pallet. Okay. So it's mainly introducing the definition about what a bed is from our own definition and what a bed, Gamma, could be in somebody else's definition. Gamma means bed in Spanish. It's basically about when I would go to LA. I'm from LA. Whenever I would go to LA, or whether it's like visiting museums or anything like that, I would see these makeshift homes. So then I thought, well, these people probably had the stuff that we had, and something must have happened in order for them to be in that position that they are in. So I wondered, don't they ever like miss the stuff that they had, or are they doing something in order to how should I say this, to remember what they had? So Gamma, pretty much, I just it's a friend of mine actually modeled for this one because I wanted to have the exact angle. Mm-hmm. So I was playing around with the definitions of what Gamma means. And then there's also a hierarchy when it comes to Gamma. With Gamma specifically, I was thinking about the definition. So Gamma means bed in Spanish. When we hear Gamma, we automatically connect it to comfort, something soft, something bouncy, warm, and what else? And
comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable and luxurious.
Yes.
And also safety. Some of the words.
I definitely agree.
So when I started thinking about, well, if this is Gamma to me, what would Gamma be for somebody else? So then that's when I started thinking, okay, well, these people that seem to not have anything are utilizing all the material that they could find in order to have some sort of comfort. So by like just saying, taking that wooden pallet, putting a bunch of like foam from like broken down couches from the street, bags, bottles, whatever they could find to have that sense of safety and comfort, just for they could rest. And then there's also a hierarchy within that. We all sleep in a Gamma, whether it's a makeshift bed or a luxurious bed. But the main thing is that there's a divide. We're utilizing this bed just to sleep, but you have a bed that costs like millions of dollars, but you have another bed that doesn't cost $1 million, but it does the same thing. So
Right.
I had these things in mind in which I was thinking about hierarchy, the chaos and order, politics, and comfort and discomfort.
Yes, that's interesting. That's super wild that you're doing a project on that and then you're discussing it because I'm looking for a mattress. And just like you said, I have those thoughts where it's like, dang, like that's such a super like soft, comfortable, supportive, secure, safety. And I want to look for those things in the mattress that I buy. And when I'm looking at mattresses, you see clearly you find those aspects to be stronger um, in mattresses that cost more. And if they cost more, you could
You
either pay
think
a
that
full or you have a monthly payment. And so I think there's a question there that should be proposed, like why not, when I'm just using this for sleep, like why is it that it has to cost me that much, whereas you go with a lower mattress, you're not going to get all those things. You're not going to get the comfort, you're not going to get the safety, you're not going to get the support, or you may get only certain aspects of those feelings. And like you said, there is a hierarchy to it because we do perceive it, right? Trump or anyone of higher class like that, um, they're not going to be buying $100 mattress, they're going to be buying something that is going to encompass all those feelings that you expressed and maybe even more, with an elegant bed, that we will never be able to afford.
Yama, that's the main one that I like. Just because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because, well, I don't find it weird. I don't really stay up to date with technology, or I don't really have to have the best clothes. Just say I like vintage clothing, so
Yeah.
it's more catching to the eye for me. I was thinking about, well, we are living in a society in which we are looking at price tags. We're looking at marks, not brandings.
Do you feel like when we look at those brandings, when we look at those price tags, it influences our perception of the product, being that if it's a popular brand or if it's something that costs more, we will perceive it as, oh, well, it's got to be a better item than this one.
Not only that, but also the person feels better because they have it.
Oh, it costs more, so then they want to present it.
So there's some sort of like happiness. Just say if I buy Urban Outfitters, an Urban Outfitters t-shirt. No, that's a bad example. A thrift shop t-shirt, just say, compared to a Zara t-shirt. The Zara t-shirt is $40. Thrift shop t-shirt could be under $10. You start comparing, and then you're like, well, this one has been used, but it's 100% cotton. The other one's newer. It's 100% cotton. It's just the branding. It's just cotton. It's the same thing.
Right. That was kind of interesting how, in your perception, do you feel, just in your opinion, is there a certain hierarchy for companies? Just said you started to mention about Urban Outfitters, then you retracted, and then you went with Zara. You know what I mean? As in like H&M or Banana Republic,
A lot of those companies, like I used to work for Forever 21. So like Forever 21, Gap, Zara, they are fast fashion companies. So they're producing clothing every single day. They're utilizing a lot of our natural resources, and they're polluting a lot of our natural resources.
I got a question. Is that you said a term? I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said, yeah, fast fashion. Is that what you mean by like they have a quick turnaround? Define that. This is the first time the term's being known to me.
That's pretty much just stating what's in right now. It's not going to be in tomorrow. You're not guaranteed. So companies take that advantage of the phases that people are going through. by utilizing like, what is it called? Influencers. So a lot of these fashion brands like Fashion Nova, Forever 21, they're utilizing influencers because of their platform in order for them to push product out so they could send it out to the masses and expose it so people could be like, oh, nice. These people are using, I don't know, like just say ripped up jeans with like a Hot Cheetos one piece. I don't know.
Right.
Bodysuit. And that was kind of the fad a couple months ago, actually.
Right.
So a lot of these companies are abusing their labor. Kylie and Jenner company are not paying their workers at the moment. Urban Outfitters is not paying their workers at the moment. Gap is not paying their workers at the moment. The people that are making clothing at all. So,
Wow.
So I think also people tend to, in a way, have a fetish for these brands. If you have Gucci, you're gonna feel a sort of level of accomplishment. You're gonna feel better than everybody else. I remember when I was in high school in 2014 and a lot of these kids had Prada backpacks. I'm like, why do you have a Prada backpack when you're just going to school, carrying your books, and then just do your work, just getting smarter each day. But when you present something like that, you're setting a status for yourself. Like you're better than everybody else. You may have a little bit more money. You're just better, and having these things kind of make you feel better. But for me, it's like the opposite. I don't see Prada as like, oh man, I need to have this product because it's Prada. For me, it's just like a material and that's it. The branding itself is the thing that gives it its value. Right. So
that's you see that similar when you have conversations like with people and automotives, right?
Oh yeah, that's
oh yeah, I got this car, or I got a new car. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, what is it? Oh, it's 2010, da da da. But that's a used car. Yeah, I mean, it's a used car, but it's new to me, Mm-hmm. And so in that regard, for you, it's for the person that bought it, it's a new car. Yes, has it been used? Okay, that's true. But kind of like similar with thrift store clothing, it's new clothes to you, so you, in that regard, you dress it up how you feel, or you operate the automotive, you clean it, you take care of it the way how you do, because to that person, it's new, and other people will kind of look at it and be like, oh, cool. And then it'll diminish that feeling inside of you when it shouldn't, because it's like, yo, that's cool. That's a newer car than what you had. I remember you had this 2000 Corolla or 2006 Corolla, and now you have something, maybe 5 years older, but it's still compared to your old car, it's newer. And why not?
In a way, subconsciously pressured into having the better things in life than simplifying it. I feel that if you are, I know some people that would upgrade or update their iPhone every single time the new one would come out. Yeah. I'm like, don't you get kind of tired of like researching every detail about the phone when it's coming out and all that stuff? For me, I'm like, I have the iPhone 7. The iPhone 11 is out or 12 is coming out. Mine is
I have an Android. I understand exactly what you're saying, because
that's 5 generations old. It's still working fine. Like I think it's also a mental thing in which we tend to want to be update in order to feel better, in order to be part of the crowd and not be left out.
We always kind of want the newest thing. Technology is funny like that. Technology is always being new.
Yeah, but then being simple and then just appreciating. Part of this pandemic, I learned to appreciate more of the things that I do, and then also wanting to do the things that I didn't take advantage of, like, oh, going hiking a lot more, going to the park, spending more time with family.
Sure.
Uh, so it it just, I think
Well,
this
I,
pandemic kind of
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Got you. Well, I do think that your Alakama, your Kama project is definitely talking about these issues, these social issues, because these are social issues, and these are certain things I know I felt them, but these are emotions and feelings that do arise, especially like you said, when you're in high school, and someone comes with a Prada bag or using MAC makeup versus using, I don't know, something that you find at Target, just you do see those themes arise when you're growing up. So I think that's really awesome that you're doing a project on that.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna add it's also contagious because when you just say, when my dad was talking about this a couple of days or a month ago, because my brother got he has like a 2019 Honda Accord or whatever, his very
Okay.
first car. I have my mom's 1999 Toyota Camry. So I had that car for like years, but it works fine. It gets me to the place where I need to go
Right.
as long as you take care of it. But my dad was saying more of like, okay, my little brother was going out so much with a new crowd of people. My dad was like, who are these people? Where are your old friends?
Yeah.
Old friends were super cool, like genuine. So going to the point, when you have nicer things and you show yourself as being as somebody that's maybe better with better money, whether it would be with the products, the shoes that you have, makeup, whatever, you'll attract people to your group, and then you'll have this mixture of people in where you're performing something that you're not. But once you don't have that product anymore, just say you quit using Prada, you quit using Mac or whatever, those people that you considered as friends no longer are your friends because you're not in that status symbol anymore when you have these products.
Yeah.
So with Gamma, I feel that um, no matter what class level that you're part of, if you have something that the higher level don't have or the middle class don't have, you're seen as like way below, but you're still utilizing your resources and something in order to bring back that comfort and that safety. But it's pretty much the same thing. That the only way in order to experience it without being in the same position that they are in would be if you're going camping for like a week, when you're not, when you don't have anything like comfortable, when you don't have like, I don't know,
Yes.
whatever, like that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. That's the only time where we'll feel more in connection with, just say, the homelessness, that sort of sense, but to an extent, not,
Right, to an extent, yes,
you know.
because we're not, in their life or anything like that. Well,
Because
that's really awesome.
because many of them don't also have a phone. So the piece that I have is kind of a loss of time. You're wandering timelessly. Maybe you don't even know the date or the time,
Yeah.
the year. But with us, we can't even go out without our phone. With our phone. But with them, it's more about them wandering into a world being ignored, and then
Yes.
being scavengers and like utilizing what they need, and that kind of be a little bit more resourceful, while we who have a lot more kind of don't appreciate it, and then we kind of abuse the resources when we should be more aware about, well, why do I need a closet full of clothing when a lot of this clothing is most likely, you don't know where it's going to end up, maybe a thrift
Right.
shop once you die or whatever.
Yeah.
So it goes through a lot of stuff. Like, I'm thinking a lot right now.
Yeah, no, completely. Like you do, yeah, and not to say that it doesn't connect or correlate with your project, because it does. trying to, in my opinion, I feel like it's trying to showcase these feelings of, or maybe trying to expose, well, showcase and expose the what may be the emotions and tribulations of someone that lives out on the street. You know, a lot of it from what you're saying, that's what I'm grasping. I'm like, man, this guy's really aware of his surroundings. He's really seeing these things, really seeing, because when you do go to LA, right, you got Skid Row, right?
Even Riverside, the closest is Riverside. Every single
Exactly.
time.
And you care about it. You're empathetic, and I think that's what's up. You
Yeah.
know.
It's in Riverside every okay, so if you go to Riverside right now, you
Mm-hmm.
won't really see a lot of homeless people, but because they're being sheltered because of this whole thing or you know, doing other stuff. But every year when Riverside has its light festival, before that month hits, you always see homelessness right across like Riverside Art Museum, the downtown area, like a lot. When the festival happens, there's none. And the reason why is because Riverside Police actually goes in and takes every single person, every single homeless person, put them in vans and relocate them somewhere else, like San Bernardino.
Hmm.
So,
Now,
so
I've
instead of fixing the problem, they're just pushing it aside in order to allow other people to feel comfortable. So,
right. Yeah, like I mentioned, I have heard that with my city. I haven't looked into it yet, but there has been a rise of homelessness in our area, and that's what I've heard. Is that outside cities from the outside of Covina, their officers come into our city and let them go. Like I said, I haven't looked into that myself in regards to my own city.
there was a big issue in Venice Beach too about that. Um, Actually, parking lots were being allowed to be used for homeless people with vehicles to sleep in there in the lit area, and then a lot of people were getting mad because I guess for them it was more about attracting more people into the area
Hmm.
and not
They
allowing.
don't want that.
Yeah, they don't want that. They want, they don't want to have that representation of the city
Yeah.
when there's these people in there. Um, well, for them,
Yeah.
but
Right. And it's one of those tough situations because it's like I know a friend of mine. She grew up in her car, and it wasn't like because her mom was on drugs and when I kind of feel that maybe the perception, oh wow, that's because they chose that lifestyle, they chose uh, that blah blah blah, right? But I mean, no, that's not all the stories. Like I said, with a friend of mine that I've known since my mid 20s, and I'll be 31 this year. Uh,
what? I thought you
yeah,
were 5 or 20.
nah, that's I'm glad I look 25. But yeah, so I remember her telling me when she was a kid, she would grow up, and living in her car. And I mean, her mom had a job, she just couldn't afford the rent, couldn't afford the
Yeah.
mortgage. Now, I
Oh,
mean, she's not doing that now. And in her life now, she has her own house. So she's done very well for herself coming from that kind of a background. But that, like I said, that just goes to show you that some of these people, they're just stuck in a hard place and they don't know how to bounce back from it, but they're
and
trying.
part of it's also because of the system. The system doesn't really help them directly. It always like pushes them in a way to the side. No, well, not to the side, but it takes forever for them to get help
Gotcha.
or that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I
There
believe
was a
White Underbelly or Furry Underbelly, one of your friends that does that interviewing project with people in LA, I believe. White
okay.
Fuzzy Rabbit or White Underbelly.
Uh, uh, Yes, I mean they're I don't know them personally, but they were I referenced because I really liked the way how they recorded. But like it was like Swipe Valley or something like that was the username, and they were going around interviewing
Yeah,
these
so many of them, I've been
girls. Yeah,
watching videos for actually quite some time. Like many of them were stating about how they had jobs, but when they applied for just say unemployment or help, just help in general, they
hmm
were kind of turned away, or the process is taking so long and that sort of stuff. I think it's also the system's kind of lacking on that.
You think
Uh,
maybe like an update in the infrastructure of
yeah,
the social system?
because everything it's not good. So there shouldn't
Yeah.
be so much homelessness when we are seen as one of what the top isn't the United States seen as one of the more progressive or that
Right.
sort of
Right. We are a first world country. We're not like a second or third.
yeah.
Third world being like, some of the countries that you see in Africa, like Ethiopia. We are one of the powerhouses in this world. So it's like, why do we have these issues with homelessness? I haven't looked into, I've only heard, so I haven't done research into what I've heard, but I have heard where other areas that don't have a homeless issue to the degree that we do. Yeah. So that I think there is something to look into on our side to be like, well, what are they doing? What's going on with their system and to why their numbers are so low? Is it because we just have a higher population? So if we have a higher if we have a higher population, then 5%, if 5% of that population, there is a chance that that 5% could be greater than, let's say, a country that has a smaller population. But still, I think it's something to be looked into because this is a growing issue. We do have finances to combat certain other things, whether it be like warfare with another state and whatnot, but we are struggling with this homeless issue. Now, I understand that there are some people that unfortunately have made their decisions in life, and that's what they've made, as in regards to uh, people that are drug addicts that are stuck in that world, because I have met other people that are just like, I don't want to be on radar. Uh, I don't want to be part of this system. They want to be outside of the system, living in their own, being that they don't want to have to use credit cards to track their transactions on a bank. They don't want to have that happen to them, or a mortgage to be like, yo, this is where I'm at, that they are okay with that lifestyle, and they're nomadic, so they're always constantly traveling. So they're on their own separate or separate category, in my opinion. But there are people that are, I feel, that do struggle, that do need assistance, that are being fall through the cracks and all that.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
a
man,
lot of my work, it just there's like
revolves around that, huh?
it, pretty much it bounces off a lot of things. Um,
Yes, as it should. That's as an artist, I do, as an artist myself, I do find myself pulling from my thoughts. I have thoughts about current events, what's going on, and it's kind of like a balloon, right? It swells up in my head, and it just feels overwhelming to me. And it's like, in order for me to cope, comprehend, and just feel okay, I have to produce this work. So I really like that you're seeing what you're seeing and you're wanting to produce work based upon that. I really think that's pretty awesome.
because a lot of the work, I believe, if I'm correct, well, if I haven't been seeing a lot of art lately, but a lot of art, well, actually, yes, public works. So a lot of work that artists are doing more for I mean, work that artists are mainly doing are murals about the people that face police brutality, or
Yes.
you know, the what's her name, Vanessa Guy.
Yes, yes. Vanessa, the military personnel that unfortunately was murdered on base. I think in Florida, Texas, somewhere.
Fort something in Texas, I
In
believe.
Texas, yes.
Because I have a cousin in
Right.
the army, and he's in Texas, and that's how I kind of linked it to.
Right. Like, how could that happen? Like, they were able to show. I was reading an article, and they were able to find out that yeah, she was murdered in on base in the supply room or whatever the case may be. Like, how could that happen?
It was the supply, the weaponry. It was a
Thank
weaponry.
you. Exactly. And it's like my brother is a Marine. So I've gone on to those bases and it's heavily guarded, heavily secured. They check everyone's ID that goes in. So they're documenting all that. So how can that happen? And how can she be missing? So there is a lot of questions
For what
about that.
months? For months
Yes. For
without like
months.
anything
When
family or
exactly. You if someone disappears from boot camp, whoa, they go AWOL. They track them down real quick, and they start charging them or they want
yeah.
to prosecute them for going AWOL, absent without leave,
And then
So
when
there is a
24
lot of
hours, you're
questions.
considered as a missing person, but this has been months.
Exactly.
So,
And then that's a sad story on how it ended.
so I
God
feel that
bless her
artists
family.
are, in a way, creating works in order to expose the politics that are occurring in our time, like the what's called the Black Lives Matter movement mural, which is no justice with a KNOW, no peace, same spelling. It's more about monumentalizing them
Right.
and putting them in a surface in where everybody could see in order for us not to forget about them. Because in our history, um, people of color, we are talked about, but we're not talked about for our successes. We're mainly talked about for, like, just say, being uh, like savages, being slaves, pretty much doing all the dirty work when there's a system that is trying to control our status. So, and then pretty much brushing everything under the rug. Um, like finding out now that there are a lot of presidents that have families with the slaves that they've slept with,
Yeah.
and then not having that family be part of the original, well, part of the other family, because if they have, just say, the African American family be part of the president's original family, that's gonna like mess up history and then kind of like mess up the whole idea of the president, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like if because everything was so brushed under the rug, if stuff has it's leaking slowly, like the mistreatment of like people of color, um, the stuff that people of color have done, like the windshield wipers was, I believe, invented by an African American man, but stolen by Ford.
Huh.
I guess an all American car company.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so like
yeah.
little stuff that's exposing our country, I think it's gonna rewrite our history, but it's gonna take time.
Yes.
I think people are more aware of the political ideologies that the U.S. has embedded in us at a very young age, for us to think that, oh wow, we live in like an amazing country. A lot of people coming from other countries think about the U.S. being the land of opportunity. Yes, but it's only catering for a certain group of people. It's not everybody. There's always an scapegoat.
Right. Have you heard of artists such as like Buddy Waters? Have you heard of that artist?
No.
Who else there's another. Anyway, so there's Buddy, an artist of mine. She's a painter, and to comment on what you're saying, You have one of the artists is Muddy Waters, where his songs were taken and made famous by a Caucasian artist. I'm not sure if it was Elvis Presley or whatnot, but you look him up. He's from 20s, 30s. I forget. And then
That name though, Buddy Waters.
and who else? She's also doing some other things. But basically, you do find that similar thing within music. Elvis Presley has definitely Hound Dog. He wasn't the original creator of that, but he did take it from an African American artist. I want to say she was female. Maybe her name started off with like Big Mama. I think it was Big Mama. Oh, yes. Big Mama, right? So that's another one that she's working on. She's doing a painting. And then even on top of that, you have Led Zeppelin. That most people don't know that a lot of their great works at the time that it was produced and introduced to the world, they pinned it off as like, oh, it was their work. Like it was an original Led Zeppelin song, but later on when they were questioned about it and they were said, yeah, we did take it from so-and-so. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like they admitted it. I guess the frustration is not giving the proper respect and recognition, because they would, if you or me nowadays were to play any like Stairway to Heaven and be like, yeah, that's my song, I made it, we're going to be called out on it. We're like, no, that's Led Zeppelin. And then it's like, well, no, even further, it came from someone else.
Going
do have that.
Where you're stating about taking and then crediting it to you being the original person. It's kind of the way that I kind of learned in our history from K through 12 and a little bit to when I was an undergrad, in which I learned that the US, when it first came into this land, from what I've read or remember being told during that time, mainly like elementary, mm-hmm. was that this country was founded by Westerners, and that they met these people, and then you have this image of comparison where you have these well-dressed people with semi-nude people, and then you could differentiate the weaponry and differentiate which one is better, and then learning further on that Native Americans helped these colonizers. And then from there, it was weird because we didn't talk about more in depth. It was more about how the colonizers created so much impact on the land, I guess, more about the structures and like all that stuff. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, but what I'm just trying to say is that they just pretty much took credit of what has already been done here. Mm-hmm. Like the number system, the zero was not created by,
no.
That, and then like
I want to say I think the Greeks used it, and I want to say, I'm not sure if it's Aztecs or Mayans.
I believe it was Mayans.
Yeah, it was one. I don't think it was the Incas. That's further south, but one of those two also used it. And that's interesting that you say that, because I was reading an article about the Great Serpent. It's out in Ohio, and it's a land, out in Ohio, and it's a tourist attraction.
It's the green land, right?
Yes, and you see the snake and all that. And right? So it's that we're having this conversation, because the article was talking about a dispute, right? The Swanee, I think, if I remember it correctly, they are saying, oh, it was us. They want recognition. We were the ones that made it. Whereas now you have the New Age believers and the United um, it's united to something. United the collective. Now everyone's, and as well as you have state agency, everyone is trying to claim it, and so one of the questions proposed was, well, in our opinion, what do we think? Who do we think should have the rights to the land? And so we went down all that whole route. But that's interesting that we're having this conversation about something, what we're talking about, because that is something that I think does need to be exposed, so that, because it starts becoming unfair. People do want recognition for their hard work, because, and rightfully so, because they definitely worked hard at that. They definitely put in their time, put in their effort. It's like stealing, it's intellectual stolen property.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
especially since it's been said that the United States is a land that was pretty much created by immigrants, and but then the credit is not given to them, and it's taken by somebody else.
right, that's it. It's interesting, in regard, because this whole land, there was countries of
Yeah,
Native
there were a lot
American.
of
There was
natives on
countries,
the land.
yes,
And it's weird too because you had the first people, the Native Americans, to be part of this land, but they were all taken away from the land and put into reservations and limiting them from their resources, not allowing them to excel when they were the first ones here.
yes,
And many of them in their reservations, they have a lot of health problems like diabetes,
yeah.
homelessness, poverty, drinking.
Yes, the land that they're given, they can't grow on it. That's why they have these casinos, So even in that regard, people could argue, oh yeah, we gave them back land. We gave them back land. Well, correct. But what's the quality of land? If I give you food, but it's low quality food from trash, you're going to be happy with that? Well, no. So you basically just gave them land that they can't really use, that they can't grow anything. You basically gave them trash land, and they're supposed to be happy with that.
No, it's sad because like how he said, they were the first people here. Why
They're the indigenous people of this
the
area.
indigenous people here? Like, why are they in this position? Well, that's because
of an outward force that, in my opinion, I feel it was because an outside force saw their primitiveness, saw also what they could contribute, because it was magnificent what Tenochtitlan had, an irrigation system. They were cleaning themselves. They had a way to pump out all the dirty water out. Whereas at that time, what was Europe doing? Europe was too busy dealing with the bubonic plague because they didn't have something as sophisticated as that to clean out their drainage system. Their drain was basically the street, and people could look that up in history and research that. It's given fact. It was, I said, on History Channel on a documentary. They could look at that as well. So it's like they saw, in my opinion, they had superior armor. They had superior firearms. So yeah, when I used to wrestle. So when I know and I see someone that doesn't have the same skill as me, that isn't up to my talent, right? I know I'm gonna dominate. And I'm like, yeah, screw it. Like I'm gonna dominate them to the fullest extent. And I think that, and I wonder, I should say, if that was their perspective, that they saw that they could take advantage because they were so, from what I understand in my class readings and what I understood through documentaries, the mentality of the Native Americans or the indigenous people of America was that the land wasn't theirs. It was for everyone. It was an outside mentality that brought the idea that land is able to be not possessed in a sense of by a ghost, but the land could be owned. They didn't understand. They didn't have that concept.
It was also a status symbol. The more land you had, the more power you had.
Exactly, and then
And then
I,
there's still,
I wonder. That's why I wonder what I wonder if they did take advantage of
and it's
their
still
innocence.
because you were saying that they believe that the land is everybody's land. There's no like, you know.
That's what I understood from my
Yeah,
readings going
that's
over.
what I thought too, because that's from what I've read about. Like,
Yeah,
hear anything about a divide.
right,
It's more of like trades and that sort of stuff, but in a
right,
way, kind of putting them in the same position how they were like years ago.
right.
Um, yeah. So everything,
Yeah,
everything, every piece that we make pretty much takes historical past and brings them in a different way presently, because a lot of the stuff that happened in the past is sadly repeating, but it's repeating because we allow it to repeat.
yes. And I think that's awesome that you're doing these works of art that talk about those things because you have the concern of tearing down these monuments that are risen up through like in the South with the that are symbols of racism, even
Elementary school, schools mascots, college
yes,
mascots.
schools mascots. There's a school out in LA. I forget what the school is, but they had a mural. It was like I think it was a mural about George Washington, and we had to read about it in art history class. And the muralist back then was painted in the 40s. I forget who the muralist was. But going fast forward to today and current events, they decided to cover it up. They wanted to do that because to them it was perceived as being racial. Now, one of the questions in the article that I was reading about was, well, the artist isn't here to talk about why he did what he did, why he presented, because he did present Native Americans being dead on a George Washington mural. He did represent slaves in there. So it was like, that was his way. He was commissioned to do a piece that glorified George Washington, from what I understand, or someone of that high figure back in the day. And so that was like of his way to show the truth as like, yes, George Washington did do this, this, and this, right? Great things for the country, whatever. These are his recognition for what he did. But let's not cover the facts that he still had this, and this. He still had these darkness in his, or these skeletons in his closets, And in my opinion, I kind of thought that maybe they should have left that up. The school did do presented this idea to the students, and they wanted them to write an essay. Should they or should they not tear down the mural, and why? So one of them stood out to me because that student did talk about that. It was like, it was to that student, it was a reminder of how things were, so that then it wouldn't continue on,
Mm.
And so just like you're saying, how you like to pull from past issues and you're seeing it happening right now, is to continue to expose that, so that hopefully one day we could move away from it, right? I mean, that's why we learn history, is to learn from our past mistakes, and if we destroy any record of our past mistakes, like
Again,
if we destroy
how
racism, right, and what
we
the
grow up.
KKK have done, exactly, it's like, then if we destroy that and no one is learned of those ideas, then it's harder. I feel that it's harder for humanity to recognize it or to see it as, that's a racist comment, that's a racist act, where we may feel inside that, okay, that's kind of not right. I feel uncomfortable about what he's saying. But if we don't know, like, colorism, I was like, colorism, what the heck is that? And then I learned about it, right? And I was just like, wow. And then I learned that, my friend that is from Mexico, and the part of Mexico that she's from was one time owned by the Mayans. So she's quite possibly, she feels she has some indigenous in her because of that reason. She's never been tested, so she doesn't really know for sure. But even in Mexico, she was telling me that there is racism in regards to Mexicans versus the indigenous people of Mexico. And I find that crazy because it's like, to the rest of the world, they're going to be classified as Mexicans unless they're told otherwise. So then, if that's regard, then it seems like to me it's like a colorism where they're judging people that are either Mexican, right? The lighter complexion of the skin, the more the higher status it's seen, whereas the darker the skin is not as seen as such a higher status, you know. So I do think that's awesome that your work is talking about these things, you know, and that's not to discredit any other work where people do more things and expressing their inner emotions, whatever inner tribulations they're dealing with, whether it has to come from family and whatnot. I think all of that, there's a place for all of it. I just think that also that's good that you're doing these things, man. Well, I do look forward to seeing more of your work, man. Keep us updated. Let us know how everything's going, man. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, wow, that's a lot of work.
It always is, but that's
It's
why they're a
not
lifetime.
yeah, it's not also about like the social issue, like the stuff that I was talking about. I also on the side like stuff like photography work, more of like exploring my own sexuality and that sort of stuff. So
Right
it's a
on.
little bit more like out there, but
All of it, man. I mean, all of it is good. I do feel people will end up relating to projects as such. Well, Edgar, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today and allow me to do this interview. So once again, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem.
So